Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, and that is that when it comes to SUVs, Ford's form has been pretty patchy. On the one hand, it's given us excellent ones, like the Aussie-built Ford Territory, which was the first SUV to ever win Wheels Car of the Year way back in 2004. But on the other hand, it's been serving us up unconvincing and underdone SUVs like the miserable old EcoSport. Lately though, Ford's been on a bit of a roll. It's just given us the new Escape, which we're going to be testing at Car of the Year for 2021. And we also have this, the all-new Puma. The Puma is based on the Fiesta city car, and it's a small SUV to rival the likes of the Toyota CHR, the Nissan Juke, and the Mazda CX-3. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through all of the Puma's key aspects, and also zeroing in on some of the cool features that this car has that none of its rivals do. If you're interested in a particular detail, then the time codes for this video are just here, and they're also in the description below. And if you have a question, jump into the comments and ask away. I'll make sure that I'm there to answer them all. Here at Wheels, we create car reviews for people that care about driving. So let's start with the Puma's engine and with its dynamics. And the good news straight off the bat is that this is a good little jigger. Ford's chassis engineers are some of the best in the business, and there's plenty here to keep keen drivers interested. The chassis balance is actually really good, and when you get the Puma on a windy road, you kind of find yourself carrying more and more speed through the corners because it's actually quite fun. Part of that is down to the suspension tune. Today we're in the mid-spec ST line, and that gets a sports suspension, which while making the chassis feel a little bit more eager, the trade-off to that is that it's probably pushed the ride comfort a little bit too far for a small SUV that's going to be spending most of its time in the city. It's just a little bit too firm. Steering, it's really good, but not quite as good as the chassis. It lacks that tactility and that feel that we've come to expect from Ford's products, but it is light and it's sharp and it's direct, which given that this is a small SUV and not a hot hatch, is really all you need. The engine is impressive as well, and it's an economical little unit. It's a 1 litre, 3-cylinder turbo petrol, and its outputs are 92 kilowatts and 170 Newton meters, and that's line ball with what you get from other 1 litre rivals like the Nissan Juke and the Skoda Kamiq. It's an eager little unit, but it's also not the gutsiest when it comes to overtaking or punching into holes in traffic. What's less ideal is how the engine works with the gearbox. The gearbox is a 7-speed dual clutch, and while it's fine when you're on the move like we are now, when you pull up to a junction like this one and you ask for a lot of power to punch into traffic, there's quite a lot of hesitation. And there's also quite a bit of vibiness through the drivetrain at low speed, which isn't ideal. Still, on balance, the Puma is a really engaging small SUV, and it's more fun to drive than nearly all of its rivals. If I had to give the Puma a score out of 10 for its performance and its dynamics, I'd give it a solid 8. Now, on to the thing that will probably dictate whether you're looking at buying a Puma or not, and that is the way that it looks. Ford's clearly put a lot of effort into making the Puma stand out, and that's really important in a segment where you have things like the Toyota CHR and the Nissan Juke, which show that styling is super critical in this segment. Now, the Puma isn't quite as radical as a Nissan Juke, but it is distinctive, helped by this big grille at the front, which is kind of smiley and soft and, yeah, makes the car look a little bit approachable. The headlights are set nice and high as well, and Ford says that these LED elements inside them, they're inspired by the GT supercar, which, if I squint, I guess I can kind of see that. The side profile, these haunches are really nice and pronounced, and the side is quite swoopy, which I really like, and every Puma also scores alloy wheels. 17 inches at the bottom end of the model range, and the top spec car gets 18-inch wheels. You can also have some nice little options, like this car has the optional blacked out roof for $500. At the back, this car also has the Puma badge in blacked out lettering, which I really like. On other versions, it's in chrome. So that's it, that's the design. What do you guys think? Has Ford really nailed it with the Puma, or has it dropped the ball? Let us know in the comments below. As for a score out of 10, well, I'm no design expert, but we do have somebody on the Wheels team that is a car designer, and that's Richard Falazzo, the man responsible for things like the Effigy concept car, and he's given this car a score of 7.5 out of 10. There are 3 versions of the Puma to choose from in Australia, and the model range is really easy to understand. Everyone uses a 1-litre turbocharged petrol engine and is front-wheel drive, and the only difference between the model grades is equipment levels and some interior fit and finish. The range starts at $29,990 for the entry-level Puma, and that's a few grand more than you have to spend for an entry-level Duke or a Volkswagen T-Cross, but the level of standard equipment is really generous. There's an 8-inch infotainment screen, and it's compatible with both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although you do have to plug your phone in with a cord. If you don't want to do that, then Ford's own Sync 3 system is one of the better ones on the market, and all of the menus are logically laid out and they're very easy to use. You get sat-nav as standard, and also a wireless charging pad for your phone, plus a reversing camera, and the resolution on it is miles better than you get on competitors like a Mazda CX-3. And there's loads of safety gear as well. AEB with pedestrian detection, lane departure warning, rear parking sensors and traffic sign recognition are all standard. And you can add even more safety gear if you like with an optional park package for $1,500. And that brings adaptive cruise control with lane centering and also front parking sensors and blind spot detection. And here's something you don't get in any other small SUV, massage seats. They're only available on the base Puma, but just imagine cruising home from a hard, stressful day at the office, and the car is going to work away all those knots in your back. Could be pretty cool. The car we have here is the mid-spec ST line, and it retails for $32,340, and it adds a digital instrument cluster and also tweaks the suspension for a sportier tune. And then you have the top spec ST line V, which adds an electric tailgate and also a 10-speaker sound system from Bang & Olufsen. It retails for $35,500, so about 5.5 grand more than the entry-level Puma. As for which variant offers the best value, I reckon go for the entry-level car. Everyone has the same engine and gearbox, and sure, you miss out on the digital instruments, but the analog dials are very handsome and easy to read. Plus, the sportier suspension tune on the top spec cars does make the ride a smidge too firm. Every Puma comes with Ford's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and as for servicing costs, you'll be paying $300 per service for the first 4 years, and that compares really favourably to more expensive Euro rivals. Scoring the Puma out of 10 for value is actually quite tricky. There are much cheaper rivals in this segment, but Ford has countered that by cramming this car full of standard equipment. So on balance, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The Puma uses the same platform as the Fiesta, but its dimensions have been stretched in pretty much every direction. The wheelbase is about 100mm longer, and the footprint is wider as well, and that translates into a cabin that is pretty roomy, at least for front seat passengers. Overall in here, the design isn't quite as adventurous as you get on the outside, but at least the fundamentals are solid. The seating position is pretty good. You get lots of reach and height adjustment on the steering wheel. Downsides to the seats, they're manually adjustable, which is a bit of a bummer. And in the base car, the backrest can feel a little bit narrow and lacks lateral support. As for vision out, it's actually much better in here than I was expecting given the swoopy exterior design. And the rear 3/4 vision, which is a bit of a bugbear in this segment, good luck seeing out of there in a Toyota CHR for example, is actually pretty good. Where things are less convincing is in the back. Okay, here I am, set behind my driving position, and as you can see, I'm a little bit short on knee room. I'm 6'1", headroom, I just have enough, but at least I've got plenty of toe room. The downside is I don't get much in the ways of amenities. There's no rear air vents, there's no USB ports down here either, and there's not even a central armrest, which is a bit of a bummer. And the door cards are made from hard, scratchy plastic, not the soft touch stuff you get in the front. I mean, it's fine back here for kids, but if you're going to be using this back seat a lot, I'd recommend something like a Skoda Kamiq or a Kia Seltos, which both have roomier back seats. But the saving grace is the boot. It's pretty big at 410 litres, and that's 60 more litres than you get from something like a Mazda CX-3. But when you actually open the lid, it doesn't look that big because it has a false floor. That's really useful though, because when you drop the back seats down, it means that you've got a flat loading bay for larger items. If you need more space, simply pick the floor up and drop it down. And there you go, full 410 litres of capacity. And another really clever thing is that underneath the floor, yet again, is a waterproof section. That means you can throw things like wetsuits and muddy soccer boots in there without making the rest of the car dirty. So it's really useful and genuinely thoughtful back here. As for a score out of 10, I'd give the Puma 7 out of 10 for its interior execution. The challenge facing the Puma is a tough one. The small SUV segment is really competitive, and there are lots of rivals that the Puma has to contend with, so it needs to stand out. It needs to major on X Factor. And in that regard, I'd give this car a score of 8 out of 10 for X Factor or feel-good factor, because it's eye-catching and distinctive, but it's not polarizing. So all up, that gives the Puma a total score of 36.5 out of 50, which is really impressive. And it means that Ford finally has a contender in the small SUV class that is fighting at the pointy end. There are some negatives to contend with. This car doesn't really break any new ground or push the segment forward in any way. And I also would like to see the hybrid versions, which are available in Europe, come to the Aussie market. But all said, this car is much more convincing than the EcoSport that it replaces, and it is a car that you should be considering if you're looking at a small SUV. But is it enough to convince you? Let us know in the comments below.